On a scale of 1 to 10, like how proud of you of your Minnesota Vikings are you right now?
I have to tell you, I'm more proud that you introduced me as from Truro, Nova Scotia than Toronto. Like, I've lived here almost as long as I lived in Truro, but like I wear the pride of being from the hub of Nova Scotia. So I'd say Truro 1, Vikes 2, and then basically everything else is, is for bronze.
What is the nearest, what would be the best golf course at Truro, Nova Scotia?
Well, the Truro Golf Club.
18 holes?
It is 18 holes. Yes, sir. The Mountain Golf Club is also the same. I mean, we're close to Cabot. We're like 3 hours from Cabot, which...
that's real. That's legit.
That is legit. And I think down south in like St. Lucia or something, they've now built a Cabot golf course. Like, I think they may turn into a franchise of sorts.
Oh. But why would they change? Why would they take that name? St. Lucia is just going to confuse people. They're going to be packing shorts,
right?
And then you end up on the coast.
So
I just think that you want to come here. You want to come here and hang out. I'm thinking at some point I need to go that way. I've been to Cabot once, been to Halifax once, loved it. The course around Halifax that is a hidden gem is called the Links at Brunello. It is amazing.
Brunello. Oh, I don't know that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There was one, I'm trying to remember the name. Well, Fox Harbor is really nice.
Yes.
Fox Harbor is about an hour and change from the Halifax airport. It was built by Ron Joyce, the founder of Tim Hortons. And it was his private golf course up until he passed away. And now I actually played it last summer, and it's just now houses being built all over the course. It's outstanding. Rick Bowness, the former NHL coach, always has a charity golf tournament there every summer, Fox Harbor.
And then the question I always ask Eric Francis, do you have any comp deals for me when I show up at this place?
I was waiting for that.
I'll just be up front and ask.
Right. You know who I would reach out to? S. Crosby at PittsburghPenguins.com. He's got all the hookups for free golf in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that's Shane. That's his brother.
That's
yeah.
The other Crosby. If you hit up Crosby at PittsburghPenguins.com, I bet Father Troy he's probably on some kind of payroll over there too.
All right, that's our report today with Arash talking golf in Nova Scotia. No, hey, it's hard to believe we're sitting here December 31st. I know exactly what you're going to say here. But the Canadian sports story of the year for Arash Madani is...
It's Summer McIntosh, right? Like, I think it has to be, especially when you think of what she accomplished, what she did. 3 gold medals, a silver, a few world records. I mean, it was just amazing. But it's funny, like, Barney, what a year it was, The men's soccer team out of nowhere goes down to Copa America. They became a national story when they were down there. Getting to the bronze medal match, that was a thing. I think when you just think about where Canadian sports is now, there's just so many different athletes and so many different teams and so many different things making moves. And so next year, in the lead up to the 2026 Olympics, but which is more than that, I think we're going to have a few more household names that nobody really knew that much about Summer McIntosh before this year. I think we're going to have a handful more by the end of next.
And of course, being Saskatchewan right beside Alberta, I think one of the bigger stories is you have to talk about the Oilers and their run and how close they came, especially considering how long it's been since Canada has brought a cup home.
Yeah, may I tell you, Greg, like, you think about 1993, like, there are people in their 30s who have not seen a Canadian NHL franchise lift a Stanley Cup. That's wild. And I know the Flames got close in 2004. I know the Oilers got close in 2006. The Senators were never really close in 2007.
No, they were not.
But
when was Vancouver close? What year was that? And they burnt the city down.
2011?
2011. Were they close? Were they really close? I guess it got to Game 7.
Did you watch that documentary? Not to get sidetracked again. I had no idea how wacko that they really, like, how bad that was.
Oh, it was bad.
It was crazy.
It was bad. My sister lives in Vancouver, and like, I'm ready to go to bed after the game ends, and she sends me a photo from a friend. She watched the game at a friend's house, and they were on the balcony having a drink after. No, she sent me a photo, and I'm like, where are you? Like, is this the Gaza Strip? Like, what is happening here?
Yes.
And it was bad. It was really, really bad.
The image that I think of that entire time was that giant photo of them looting in the background and that couple just making out on the ground. And that became the most infamous picture of that entire thing. And those two became like semi-celebrities. And apparently they met that night. So there you go. Another blind date for you.
I'll give you another blind date story, because I was just watching the Raptors game and they're down by 5-0.
Exciting.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, 5 years ago, this city, this country got so wrapped up with the Raptors championship run and all, 5 years ago, now they're down by 50, how quickly things change. And I always tell people the Saturday night when they beat Milwaukee, when they won the conference finals, to punch their ticket to the NBA finals. A warm night, like downtown Toronto. I've never seen it that happy. And I was walking back home. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. And this couple was like making out in downtown Toronto on Front Street. And somebody yelled, "Name it Kawhi." And I just thought that just kind of captured the spirit and the flavor of all of that when that went down.
Good one. If there was a Canadian Football League story that stood out for you in 2024, what would it be?
There were a bunch, but I don't think anybody really thought that Nathan Rourke would A, return as quickly as he did, but B, struggle as much as he did. And there were some great stories throughout the league, but there's no bigger player, no bigger figure, no more important name maybe in the entire league than Rourke. And there was just this belief that he was going to come in and, be instant coffee, that the Lions were, people on their staff were sending out messages on social media. Well, here's the link for Grey Cup tickets. And then you realized, oh, wait a minute. There's a lot of growth needed for Nathan Rourke. So there were a lot of good stories. There were a lot of brutal stories. The commissioner gets ousted. But to me, the story of 24 really goes into 25, that this league needs Nathan Rourke to really take massive steps forward, because no athlete, I can't remember the last athlete who has been that mainstream, who has made the league that kind of popular the way Rourke did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, not even Flutie so much. Ishmael?
But like, Barney, we're now talking the 90s. Like that's
wasn't that just like 10 years ago?
Right, but that's how impactful Rourke mania was, when out of nowhere he emerged on the scene in Vancouver. Here's a Canadian guy, and he was so exciting to watch, and then suddenly it fizzled. So will an offseason, will the new coach, will some stability help Nathan Rourke? I think that's one of the huge stories going into 2025.
But really, isn't that a problem of the league not marketing their players better? There's some very talented people in this league.
Of course.
And it took a Canadian quarterback to break through. And I'm sure a certain guy like Justin Dunk is happy about stuff like that, him always pushing the Canadian quarterbacks. But like, there's some very good players that are not Canadian quarterbacks that they should be highlighting. Like Roland Milligan is a prime example.
Yeah, and I just don't think that. I think where Rourke's. I agree with you, Greg. Yes, the answer is yes. But the thing about the CFL is, you like the players on your team if you're a fan, and you often don't like any other players in the league. Like, there's this weird thing in the CFL, like I'm cheering for my team, and I don't care about the players on your team, except everybody rooted for Rourke.
I think everyone roots for Vernon Adams. If we're being honest, I think you can't find a guy that hates Vernon Adams.
Yeah, that may be.
I'm indifferent.
Of course.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of indifference, maybe. But what was interesting about Rourke was the first athlete I can remember that like broke into the mainstream beyond just CFL fandom. Like this year, God bless Brady Oliveira, great story, Canadian, wins MOP and most outstanding Canadian. I agree with you. Like I thought Milligan should have been the West nominee. I thought Milligan should have been the best player. Now, I ask you to leave your province and go into every other province that has a CFL franchise and go into a sports bar and ask them who Roland Milligan is. Probably the best football player in the entire league. And it's a secret. It's a secret. And really the opposite end of the spectrum was Rourke.
But I would argue while Rourke broke through, I'd still say there's that deficit out there that most people don't know who Nathan Rourke is. It's a failure of the league to market their players properly.
I'd say the only other player that had name recognition in the last like 10, 12 years was Ricky Ray.
Yep.
And I put Nathan Rourke right there in terms of recognition, not in terms of accomplishments, obviously.
Calvillo.
Yep.
I always thought Calvillo. It's fun.
Like Ray came after AC, you know?
Yeah. I was trying to think like a few times. It's like not where did the league go wrong? Or like why is it so different now than the 80s and 90s and when we were, growing up and watching, and it was like I knew who Dave Sapunjas was and Louis Pasaglia or whatever.
Sponge.
And it's just I watch my kids now, and although they love football, and if they'll go to a Rider game like tomorrow and doesn't matter, or a Rams game, they love the game. But then I also watch everything else that they have access to, and it's like, no wonder. I don't even think they both, besides my daughter really loving Connor Bedard because he played for the Pats, they don't really have hockey teams either. Mind you, we are in Regina. They just have access to so many other things and so many other devices and channels and games and everything. It is like such an uphill battle for the league to try and figure out how to get to them.
Well, I don't think that's a CFL only issue.
Yeah.
I think professional sports outside of the NFL is in big trouble. Like Major League Baseball, unless you're a fan of the team in your market, nobody's following what's going on. Like, I'll put it to you this way. If Kansas City's playing Cincinnati on a Thursday in the NFL, it's appointment TV. If Kansas City's playing Cincinnati in Major League Baseball, if Cleveland is playing, I don't know, Charlotte in the NBA, what happens? And Barney, like you touched on it, and this is where pro sports is in a little bit of a, like, there's some trouble brewing and lurking here. I get where franchise valuations are right now, but Mark Cuban selling the Mavericks to me is the canary in the coal mine here. Because when the three of us were growing up, there was one, maybe two screens in the house. And whatever that screen was feeding us is what we watched. And there was a newspaper that may or may not have come to the door. And like our imagination was the game of the week. And like if you collected cards and sticker books, and that, like, you had no options. Now each person owns 3 screens between a laptop and a tablet and a phone, to say nothing of the living room TV if it even exists. So there are so many options, there's so many distractions, and the passion and the following that pro sports had in terms of the day-to-day, in terms of the weeds, in terms of following the box score and stuff, it's diminished significantly for most people under the age of 30.
I don't know, you said 9-year-old, right?
Yeah.
We go way back, Greg and I. We literally met today. But the thing when you talk about sticker books and all that, that's the other thing that I saw with my kids, and I just sat back And it's like, not so much maybe this year, but they've always wanted the Tim Hortons hockey cards. Tim Hortons hockey cards. I want the Tim Hortons hockey cards. So then you go to Tim Hortons, you buy them these hockey cards, and then I find them underneath my floor mats in my vehicle. And it's like, I am done buying you guys these. Or I find them crumpled up under a bunch of laundry somewhere. It's like they don't mean near the same like they did to us because we didn't have anything else. You wanted to collect them. You wanted to put them in, your pro set 1 to 335. Okay, I'm missing these ones, or your sticker book and all that. And they'll never get that, nor do I expect them to get it, because there's stuff that they do on technology that blows my mind. And my 11-year-old daughter on Canva, I'm just like, what spaceship did you just come from? I have no idea. It's wild. So
it's different, right? And here's and this is really important, that a lot of pro sports franchises and leagues need to adapt to this new fan base, because very quickly, Barney, I hate to tell you, the 11-year-old's going to become 21 and 24 and 25 before you know it, which means we get older. But it also means they then become the primary consumer.
Yeah.
And so if they're not invested with their passion and the rest, what becomes of your product and your content? I think it's a NBA ratings are down, Major League Baseball ratings are down, viewership and following is down. I think this is something that pro sports leagues really need to pay attention to.
Yeah, when she's 21, hopefully I'm in the real St. Lucia, not the one that you're talking about. Hey, I can't believe it. It's sad a bit. This part of the year gets sad because I know the NFL is coming to an end. And you look at the Lions yesterday, and 5.5, I had them. I'm like, please, 5.5, and they do it. It's almost like, what is it, Moody, kicker for that he was on my side, and I'm like, I think he had the same line that I did. Awesome, you stink. But the Lions, like, they go after it, right? When we go into the last week here, and I know it's a big one for you guys, what do you see in NFL wise?
Well, the question now becomes for some teams is, all right, do we rest guys? Do we sit guys? Do we not play guys, etc.? I get it. The issue is game day rosters are only 46 players. So if you can scratch 7, great. How do you then pick, well, you 7 guys were not going to play and the rest are? And if you're Kansas City, I think this becomes really interesting because they already have the 1 seed wrapped up, which means they sit the first week of the season with the bye. Can you really shut it down? I think that's why Mahomes and everybody played last week. You can't shut it down for 3 straight weeks and then suddenly pick it up with playoff intensity. I get what Dan Campbell did. We only have one way of doing things. It's all gas. It's no brakes. Everybody goes. And maybe you sit your quarterback to fear injury, but man, it's a slippery slope once you go down that road.
Well, that's one thing I appreciate is Dan Campbell as a head coach. He lives by the sword, dies by the sword. He's going to make you do things that make you scratch your head. But
how many times did he gamble yesterday on 4th down?
I don't even think it's a gamble anymore with Campbell. It's 4th and 4, 4th and 5. It's just, we're just, for those not watching on the stream, 3rd and 12, you're in punt territory and he just fires up a hook and ladder, and Amon-Ra gets away with a chop block because the referees are distracted because the flip goes off to Jameson Williams. It's amazing how they go. And Greg's bang on. They died by the sword against San Francisco.
Oh, we lost you. We lost you for a quick second.
Yeah,
you got it.
But yeah, as you were saying, Dan Campbell lives by the sword, dies by the sword, because I think that's the only way he understands how to play the game.
Yeah, and look, it's great when it works, and I think I may have cut out there. It's great when it works. When it didn't work? when they were up 17-0 in the NFC Championship game last year.
Yeah.
And then 3 straight fourth downs, kaput. And he didn't kick the field goal. And. So it's great when it's moving, and like the Lions have lived this charmed life now. And everything's kind of been, they've overcome their injuries, et cetera, et cetera. It's all great when it works, but if it doesn't, that's when the second guessing starts.
Okay, lastly here, Colson, we're saying we're up against the clock, but if I know you, you are probably going to finagle your way into that game on Sunday, aren't you?
I looked at the get-in price for Sunday.
Yeah.
A standing room seat at the top of the 500 level, where you're basically touching the roof of Ford Field.
Yeah.
It's around 720 Canadian dollars.
Wow. And you're hanging out with people that haven't seen daylight in a long time. There's some folks up there. No, you can't get a media pass of some sort?
Well,
cover the game for the Sports Cage. I'll give you the Twitter account.
If I got a media pass, that would mean I'd have to drink, Perrier instead of something that was going to calm the nerves a little
bit. He can't go rolling in there with his Vikings horns on with a media pass.
Right. Screaming at the top of my lungs on every third down. The usual. Just adult behavior.
Go to the media center and then be like, I got to go drop something off to a guy in the concourse. Your bag comes out, the horns are on. Smell you later. Okay, buddy. Okay, before I say Happy New Year, I'll let you go. Is there any way that either Boise State or Arizona State win these 2 football games?
I think there's a much better shot for Boise State to do it than Arizona State. I'm not a believer in the Big 12 at all. Boise can run the football. Penn State in a big spot, I just don't trust them. So if I'm picking one of the two, I'm picking Boise.
Greg's been talking like Boise State, Penn State's basically a pick 'em. I'm like, it's 11.5.
Yeah,
that is 11. Yeah. Okay, well, have a great New Year's Eve, and then we will regroup either on Thursday or Friday and talk college football, NFL, and everything else, and figure out more golf courses that I can play when I go visit your hometown.
Sounds great. Happy New Year to everybody too. Great to see you guys.
Arash Madani joining us coast to coast for Brian Gawley, Smart Investing Solutions. We're up against the clock. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be joined when we come back, hopefully by Dennis Bayak, and talk a little hockey. It is the all-new Sports Cage streaming at sportscage.com.